Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the rank 1 Terran in the world, the Frenchman from Team Liquid in the red. It's Clem, facing off against the only Zerg who has a chance to keep up with him. In the blue, the Italian Stallion. It's Reynor, in a best of 5 Terran versus Zerg showdown as part of Hero Marine's $5,000 cup. And before we get started, it'd be incredible if you could smash that like button, maybe even subscribe. We got the algorithm. And Jimmy, what do we have? 1,807 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better as the first Reaper comes in and pokes and prods at the Lings and drones, the early give and take, the flirtation as the Terrans describe it, the harassment as the Queens would rather categorize it. Though, let's see it hold up in court. The first Queen pops out, and a Creep Tumor first is actually quite a bold move, though maybe italicized in Reynor's case, as he pushes away the Reaper, and much like the Zergs, will heal over time, and somehow better when they do so. But not able to snipe off that first Creep Tumor. In fact, Reynor brought the second Queen down as well. He's even got the third hatchery, Zergling speed on the way, which means he cut several drones to get here. To get the Queens out in time, get that third hatchery, even before Clem was able to block it. And Overlord is, well, life is a struggle. And then, well, sometime between the beginning and the end, we like and subscribe and get harried by Marines halfway across the map because they couldn't find their way to a pervert pillar. But the Hellions will somewhat sportingly go right by the Overlord, so it gets a little bit of extra intel before it gets nothing more at all. The Creep Tumor first is a very active choice. The majority of Zergs won't even bother. They'll just go straight for the inject, get some more larvae, but the Creep Tumor at the very start allows you to start that creep spread early. Yes, obviously, but the first Creep Tumor is by far the most important because, like many tumors, it just metastasizes from there. And being able to get the creep spread out early against Clem makes absolutely everything easier. Of course, the opportunity cost is cutting into your own economy. Clem is just going to dive right by. He's going pretty deep. There's several Zerglings. And, ooh, pulls out at the last moment. The Queen's not happy about it, but, you know, some things have to be done. Back at home, Clem, very notably, he's got the barracks, the factory, the starport, the Dusty Cloudfist build, some sort of fever dream from literally decades ago. Pops into my head. But the third command center just started, and it's part of the natural wall. Whereas Reynor is opting for a, in the grand scheme of things, a relatively quick lair. So, the Queens rebelling against their own Creep Tumor, but the Creep itself is already starting to move out. Cloak Banshees are on the way. Spore Crawlers have begun. A Queen defense team to the south, another one to the north, and a Banshee right down the middle with you. Cloak is completed. The Spore Crawlers are almost perfectly timed. It'll cost a couple drones their lives. But for the most part... First I was afraid, I was petrified. They will survive, is what I was getting to. The lair's not quite done. The Queen! Incinerated! To start things off, but better the Queen than the drones, as Reynor at 55 of them so far and counting. Meanwhile, Clem, with your more typical setup back at home, he's got 5 racks on the way. Well, mostly completed, actually. Yeah, 3 racks done, 4 and 5 in production. We'll see if he goes any further than that in a relatively timely fashion. What's it gonna be, Reynor? He's got a lair completed, but he doesn't have nearly enough gas for mutas. If he was thinking about it. In fact, he doesn't even have a Baneling nest, though Reynor is very much on the record saying Banelings are kind of useless against Clem, at least in the mid-game, because they're kind of countered by micro. The kind of micro that only Clem can really pull off, but when he does, he is the source of many angry comments, and impressive ones. And maybe, you know, you can be angry and impressed at the same time. The Scarousal strategy. But the Banshees, doing their usual missile pods in the side at the north. We're gonna working title. We're gonna work on that. Operation Rolling Thunder. See? Much better. Epic Thunder. No. Hydralisk Den is on the way, Reynor. Not getting a very quick hive, not getting bogged down with mutas, instead going right down the middle of the road for the Hydralisk. Clem with a kind of similar style, though interestingly making more Hellions. Maybe anticipating Reynor's rush to hive with mass Zergling, in which case Hellions are actually quite a good counter and eventually Hellbat. But 11 Hydras are in production. Reynor is going to have a lot of stopping power at a very interesting point of the game. And the most key part, no Banelings. For better or worse. Hydras are great DPS as long as they have anything in front to keep them from getting ripped down. Well, we'll see if it holds up. The upgrades are finishing. We've got 1-1 for Clem, plus 1 Carapace for Reynor across the board. Infestation Pit just started. Armory has completed. So the tech is progressing, even while the armies move on to the field. As Reynor has progressed his creep out past his bases and going to force a couple scans. Meanwhile, the Hellbats, he's trying to gun down the Hydras, but, you know, I think he's underestimating them just a little bit. Or maybe he's estimating them perfectly. Oh, the Zerg! Oh, so many Zerglings. The Marines are picked up. The Hellbats are abandoned. The red-headed stepchild. And, well, I'm not sure. Overall, when it comes to the trades, Reynor's lost a bit more, but the fact that he has 4 bases. Does he have a macro hatch? No. Does he have a 5th base? No. He's got 2 Evo chambers. He's thrown an Infestor into the mix, but a hive. Sorry. But a... Wait. But a hive... I really thought he'd start the hive. I'm sorry. But a hive... He started a lurker den. Don't tease... Yeah, thank you. A hive has begun. Meanwhile, though, he has to hold the line. Though Clem kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, guns down every single Zergling before the Widowmines can even lock on and maybe do some friendly fire. The Zerglings thrown in literal cannon fodder, as almost none of them able to attack, just trying to cover for the Hydras. And so far, that's worked out well enough, as Reynor has 90 drones. Despite the fact that he struggles to deal with this many Marines and Marauders. Well, not this many Marauders. There are 0 Marauders. I apologize. I was just saying things, which is kind of my job, but I try to at least be semi-accurate. Meanwhile, the Widowmine... Oh, that's a big one. Takes out a chunk of the Zerglings. And the drone will be left to contemplate its choices after the hatchery is denied, somewhat hilariously. Meanwhile, another army is ready. An Infestor, some Hydras. The battle groups on either side. We're going to go to the Clem action cam. I warn you. I warn you. You have been warned. Here we go. All right, Hydra's loaded up, back at home, up to the north side. Hydra's slammed by the Widowmines, picks up, gets out, retargets the mine, comes into the 3rd/4th base, targets the hatchery. There it goes, pulls back, Widowmine, splits off, targets down, back at home, Ghost Academy, 4th base, Planetary Fortress, more, finds a good angle, will use it, and guns down a whole bunch of the army. Meanwhile, spending all his money, another set of production on the way. And Clem, the Terran army, he's putting everything together, reorganizing his economy, sending some of the medevacs back home and sending some of them towards Reynor's home. Meanwhile, setting up another, even has the Banshees repaired. And the only thing missing, the 3-3 upgrades have not yet started. That's the only beat that maybe Clem has missed when it comes to Progressia's tech. But I'm sure Reynor, on the other side of things, is no! Reynor lands a fungal. Takes out a huge chunk of the Marines and Mines. And suddenly, despite Clem's frantic efforts to quash Reynor's momentum, it appears he's failed to do so. The ghosts are on the way. Throws out another fungal, one very unlucky Marine. The lurkers will burrow down and try to slice through. 3-3 just started for Clem. Lurker range is done. Lurker range is absolutely critical. It far outranges. So Lurkers do outrange Marines and Marauders, though not by much. It's 8 range to 10, if I got my numbers right. But Marines at 5 and Marauders at 6 really struggle to close the distance. The snipes are equal range with ranged Lurkers. I've said range too many times, and my semantics have been satiated. But, so, the lurkers are a near hard counter. Nothing's as hard as it could be against Clem. And we're just going to move right past that phrasing and realize that with Marines and medevacs, Clem is almost impossible to deal with directly. But the lurkers are a tough nut to crack. As Clem learns with another troop of Marines. Knocks out the base in the bottom left corner. Lurkers down the center. Those have to be on hold fire. We can't actually see it with the observer cam. We've seen burrowed Banes from Reynor, but burrowed lurkers are game-ending. All right, Banelings can make the difference, but this many lurkers on the open field before Clem really has the orbitals to scan the whole map. He only has 3 orbital commands. He's not going to scan unless he needs to. We're not in a wants situation. We're in a needs situation. And right now, Clem is the one who needs to figure out how he's going to handle this late game. Because Reynor is getting everything else. He's got adrenal glands, Banelings. Here comes the... So, Banelings have their place. And at 200 supply, Reynor cannot make his army better. Asterisk. Huge asterisk. Okay. Well, when you have overlords, when you have Banelings, we've got 14 overseers, we've got Baneling speed, so I lied. You can make your army better, and this is how you do it. Reveals the lurkers. Oh, that was a bit of a flop there. There's a fusion core on the way, back at home. As Clem techs up into that later game tech, we got the Ghosts and the Liberators in production, the double Nidus, the mass changeling, that roguelike strategy. So the Overseers, they have the Changeling ability, which masks changelings that are very difficult to pick out. Clem is obviously very good at it, but the changelings immediately, and he can't see the little time. That's important to be clear about if you don't know about Clem does not see the little timer. All he sees is a Marine moving at an odd pathing that he technically can't control. But if there's enough of them scattered throughout, and now that's not the problem. Letting him watch is not the problem. The problem is whether or not Reynor has network connectivity issues. All right? Double Nidus network with mass changeling Nidus in order to keep vision and use it against him. But at the same time, Clem comes to the north. The lurkers reposition. A few will be taken down, but the Marines will be eviscerated. The gold base is taken. The Nidus will scream into existence, as so many of us managed to do. And now, a swath of changelings. No easy way to take them down, but Clem, well, he never said playing Terran was easy. He probably would accuse that of Protoss, but I digress. A dozen Banelings on the way. The Overseers continually spewing changelings. He got one into the main! And Clem immediately, he kept the Banshees. The Banshees are still alive. They're back at home to defend the main base. The home defense Banshees. And every family should have some. 5 Liberators at a time, but actually a great usage of the Banshees. Usually Banshees have not survived to this stage of the game, but Clem making a whole lot of progress with them. Another Nidus to the top right corner. Some changelings coming in. Scans across the entire board. Sees a relatively safe attack path to the bottom left corner base. Another Nidus slaps one into the main, just trying to overwhelm Clem with how much is going on and maybe cut off the army. But unfortunately gets blunted in turn. Lines up a fusillade of shots. A musket line on the Overseers, but the Overseers are no direct threat to the Ghosts. The Ghosts are just, you know, a little self-conscious. Meanwhile, there are so many changelings that Clem has not been able to deal with them. Sieges up the Liberator to kill changelings, maybe? The Banshees come back around. Immediately, Reynor re-expands. Oh, wait, he never lost the bottom left corner. His income flip-flopping around as the mules drop, as he hasn't actually taken that many more bases, though he has 6,000 minerals and 2,200 gas in the bank. Clem, though, 18 Ghosts, 6 Liberators. He still has 76 SCVs, which he might be cutting down on soon. Though if Reynor has his way, he'll help him with it. The Liberators, not needed here. Another Nidus was finally spotted in the top right. The Hydra count, 25 Hydras. In fact, Reynor has kind of shifted. So, this is the main vulnerability. Ghosts being light units now, despite having a bit more HP, are more vulnerable to Banelings. Hydras, Lings, and Banes actually a better counter to this army than Lurkers. This is designed to deal with the relatively immobile Lurkers. But the Hydras, Lings, and Banes are some of the quickest units in the game. And if Clem is even slightly out of position, it could be a disaster. Gets a couple of the Ghosts as he rolls up. And a few more Banelings trying to find an angle. Another Nidus, bottom left corner. Reynor can just keep throwing them out. He's lost 5,000 less resources, but he's mined really not that much more. That was not as dramatic. I thought it was going to be a lot more dramatic when I opened that up. Snipes off a couple of the Liberators. Dodges away from the snipes. A Nidus! He made the Nidus! He was going to run the Lurkers in, but he decided to take the express route to the back corner. Clem does not have high-sec auto-tracking in the planetary. A Venn diagram of freedom will liberate the northern base. Eviscerating the planetary. And the army, this is exactly what he needed. Here we are, jumps the army in the middle of the map. The Liberators completely out of position. The Ghosts abandoned, surrounded, and slaughtered. And just like that, Clem is cut down at the knees. The ankle-biting Zerglings will rip away his legs, and, well, there's not much more left after that. Comes right down the center, carries the attack forward. And Clem, unable to maintain any sort of momentum, he was able to put some damage on Reynor earlier. But right now, Reynor's in the driver's seat, and Clem is losing ground fast. The Liberator's still trying to find something. Clem is still maxed out. And in fact, he's at 51 SCVs. Which is not a bad thing. In this specific scenario, 147 army supply. About to have +3 mech plating for the Liberators and the Medivacs. The Banshees! Oh my. The Banshees are... What? No. They're not gonna kill... Of course. But... Well, Clem has one strategy to fall back on. Oh, sweet liberty. The Liberators trying to move forward. Reynor going absolutely anywhere else. But here come the Hydras. Lunge forward. A few Ghosts behind. The Banelings rolling through. Engages the Liberators heads up. But the Hydra's heads are put down. The Banelings still get a lot of the Ghosts. But Reynor's in the third. Reynor's in the main. And Reynor has, well, actually lost that base. Still, Clem is moving forward. The Zerglings gutting the economy simultaneously. The Liberators overhead. The spine crawlers pale in comparison. But Reynor is rebuilding. He's still at 200 supply. He can afford to continue to do so. He can't really lose. Brenda! And we're walking side by side like the Avengers. No, nobody likes Marvel anymore. That's not true. It's just a little tired at this point. So am I! Oh, that's the EMP. Meanwhile, the Liberators just racking up the kills as Reynor doesn't have any Vipers, no Infestors. He's just dealing with the Liberators with the Hydralisks. And, well, that's the real issue. Actually, what is the real issue? He has Larva. He doesn't have a Spire, right? He does! He just doesn't like it. Scans in the top right corner. Clem scrambling. Whereas Reynor rebuilding. Reynor still has a bank. Maybe some of his hatcheries are on hotkey? I actually don't know. He only has 5 hatcheries on a hotkey, and he currently has 6 hatcheries. Okay, well, that's not a crazy disparity. I'm just wondering why he's not spending the rest of his money, but he found a purpose. 4 Vipers, 3 Lurkers, another hatch on the way. How many Overseers survived? Half of them. He's down to 7 from 14, which seems to be the number. The Queens will survive all this time just to be gunned down at the expansion. Their imperialist tendencies finally coming back to bite them. Frenchmen don't take kindly to that. Widowmine's finding a big bite, but now neither side knows how much money the other has. Reynor can't be entirely sure whether Clem's flat broke or if he could build another couple dozen Ghosts. So, if he knew exactly how much money Clem has, I think he'd be sending it right down the center. But there's no reason to do so. When you're ahead, getting more ahead is usually a good strategy. And so far, he's been quite adept, somewhat Puns tangentially intended. At outmaneuvering Clem. In fact, honestly, I think this game, the tide turned. I love this. Setting up the Widowmine for even more kills. The tide turned with the Nidus dragging the army out of position and then catching him on the open field. Because very simply, you're not going to win a fight against Clem if he starts it. Even if you win the battle, that's usually a progress towards losing the war because his micro is simply too good. So you just remove that however possible. Not that Reynor's is bad, but so hard to make it useful in this sort of scenario. Parasitic bombs across a wave of Liberators who are stuck in place. The Banelings underneath. Don't watch. Maybe can't. Parasitic bombs just melting through it all. The orbital command is knocked out as well. High-sec auto-tracking and building armor. A bit late. I guess better late than never. Reynor refills for another round, and this time he's mostly out of larva, but his creep spread has kind of fallen by the wayside, but his unit production, less so. The Liberators are double-digit kills. But in the end, will it even matter? Another wave of changelings is spewed out. Liberator. Oh, scans to get more vision. Oh my. Because the Liberators don't quite have the full vision of their attack range. The Viper's in position. Dodges away from the Ghost. Banelings has a acidic shield. Clem, well, he has one shot. He has one opportunity. The question remains of whether he will be able to capture it. Or, more likely, in my opinion, he'll let it slip. But I'm sure Reynor also has strong feelings on spaghetti, maternal or otherwise. So, here comes Reynor again, 200 supply. Clem, near 200 as well. The Vipers, out in front! The EMPs were slower than the parasitic bombs, and that's gonna cost Clem possibly everything. His own Widowmine start the fight. The Banelings try to end it, but another base is knocked out by the acid that neutralizes it so well. And the Marines and Marauders in the bottom left corner will shut down the gold base, but the minerals are almost completely mined. Liberators knocked out of the sky. Clem's supply plummets. And with it, hope. Another scan. But the Marines and Marauders in autumn colors. The Ghost forced back. The Banelings just enough to keep them from lining up shots. And Reynor kind of abandoned. Even shoots down his own Liberator in a panic. Bit of a misclick there, but he abandoned the Lurkers. And that's it. He taps it. He's done. 2 Gs, and he's out of there. Reynor opens a GG $sign. I love that. 69 Hydrolus dead. 150 Marines, 50 Widowmines. Honestly, didn't feel like Widowmines were a major factor, despite there being 50 of them. Which I think is a very relevant thing to point out. Usually if there's 50 Widowmines, they're very noticeable. But not making that much of an impact, at least not a positive one for Clem. So Reynor, with a masterclass in the bait and switch, the divide and conquer, even though Clem was trying to do the same thing. Reynor did it, some might argue, a little bit better. Exhausting. I'm not even playing, I'm just watching. But hopefully. Jimmy. Game 2. Whew. That was both a technical... Where are you going? Okay. But why? Wait. I'm like, okay, he's going to do a 2-Rex, but why would you do that? You're just going to wall the natural. Is he going to engineering bay block Zerg? Is that legal? What? Proxy a second Rex? Huh. Interesting. This is quite a spicy cheese. And a rare one at that. I have not seen this in quite a while. Huh. Is he going to build a... Now, the question is whether he builds a second barracks back at home. Because that makes a total of 3 for those counting back at home as well. Very interesting. The Overlord's not going to see any of this for quite a while yet. The second Overlord is just chilling, waiting for a more conventional proxy rack sort of strategy. But this is anything but conventional. It is a 2 racks Reaper. But, the beauty of this, I think, is that the Overlord is going to spot the single racks just in time for Reynor to underreact. He's going to see one barracks and be like, okay, he's going to build a factory next to it. And then, suddenly 2 or 3 Reapers show up, and the amount of emotional damage Clem can do with 1 Reaper. And then there's 2. That's twice as many. Doing a lot of math today. All right, well, we'll see. He's taking it pretty serious. Spinecrawler starts. Or maybe he figured it out immediately and I'm not realizing what the tell is. But he started a Spinecrawler before seeing the second Reaper, so clearly some strong suspicions. Gets in, he knocks out all 4 of the initial Zerglings, and he got a drone. But Clem does need to get some damage done. He needs to slow down the economy. And ideally, well, forcing a spine. Look at the worker count. Look at it. Okay, it's 20 to 23. That's because Reynor on just 2 hatcheries. He already built a spine crawler. He can't really afford to do much more. Now, Clem is towing the line here. Meanwhile, the queens are towing the grenades. Not that it's their fault, but they're trying their best. Still, all 4 Reapers alive. That Reaper jump location, the employee entrance. Oh, one of them bounces out, staggers away. All 4 Reapers will fall back and heal up. The queens will heal up eventually, but much less happily. Zergling speed about to complete. And that means the Reapers are in an uncomfortable spot. No, that was just caster bullshit. The Reapers are fine. Even if he loses all 4 Reapers, I think this was worth it. Like, if he loses them all to Zerglings right now. Because he successfully kept the drone count low while he built a 3rd command center with an orbital command. It's not like he's got a massive lead and it's a huge deficit for Reynor. But his creep spread is non-existent. His drone count is mediocre. And his map control is somewhere in between the 2. Spinecrawler will scamper over. Cloak Banshee's on the way. A Roach one. And Reynor is still building Zerglings. He is not willing to try to macro this out. This is aggression. This is way more Zerglings than he needs for defense. Alright, you don't build these lings just to let them sit in a warehouse somewhere. Or a spawning pool, or wherever lings would just kind of hang out. Not important. But instead, he leaves enough at home to box out. Oh, he's going to try to kill him. Wow, he's going to try to snap the jaws of Zerg shut. But on the open field, he's waiting for him to dive onto the creep. Reynor has invested so much in this. He's at 35 against 42 workers. That is just a... No. That's not a good economy. The roaches will pop out. He's trying to hide them. The Zerglings. Wrapping around. These Zerglings are waiting for their opportunity, but Clem seems to be... His star senses are tingling a bit. Oh, it's perfect! The Zerglings get in at the perfect time and will surround the Marines. Meanwhile, the Queen's being harassed by a single Banshee, but the Hellions and Reapers are caught, and Clem didn't even react! The SCVs are being slaughtered, and now trying to fight on the open field. The Banshee doing what it can, both to the midfield and back at home, but a dozen SCVs have been slaughtered. Clem plummets to a 1-worker deficit. So Reynor made up some of the lost ground, but the Reapers and Hellions are still fighting the Roaches with the help of the Banshee, which doesn't fight very fair. A few more SCVs down. Reynor making some progress. The economic deficit has been flipped somewhat. Now, with 3 command centers and a couple Banshees and counting, he's still building Banshees. Clem is a very dangerous threat. But Reynor needed desperately to get some damage done, and he did. And now, potentially, Mutas. The Banshees. Let them eat creep! No, that's not what we say, Marie. Well, but they should try it. They might like it. I don't... It's not a real suggestion, Marie. I don't... I'm just saying. I'm just asking questions. That was a statement. You're always so rude, Brenda. You should smile more. I don't... Sorry. Blacked out first. Spire. Nearly completed. Reynor will not have... Does he even have an Evo chamber? No. Baneling Nest. So Clem will have +2 weapons and +1... Oh. Another Queen sniped off. The scan spots the Spire the moment finish. It's so important. That's like the perfect timing. He knows he's committed to it, but there's still plenty of time to put together your defenses. If you scan a Spire when it's a third of the way done, the Schrodinger's mutas will hang over you in a way that actual mutas can't. But if you scout a Spire as it finishes, you have plenty of time to put up turrets, and there's no canceling now. You know what road they're flying down, which seems unsafe in general, but we were supposed to have flying cars by now, but have you met anyone on the road? Not a safe experience. But the Desperation Mutas. Reynor essentially moving from a low economy all-in to a mildly higher economy all-in. He needs to do something. He cannot contend with these upgrades long-term. But the Mutas and the Banelings with speed can do something. Is it enough? Catch it. The Reapers survived to this point, may finally be taken out in the midfield, alongside the Hellions. The Banshees trying to get what they can. The Mutas flapped all the way across the map, and now are coming back again, which is an unexpected and somewhat futile journey. The Banshees managed to rack up some more kills, even another Queen and almost an Extractor by the time the Mutas come back to defend. And now the question is, for Reynor, does he double down or swing away? Burrow is on the way. +1 flyer attack. Clem, 2-1 finishing. Clem's army is better. Very simply. He's got a turret back at home to defend. But Reynor has the units. It's going to be an uphill battle, somewhat literally. Well, Reynor has that unit composition that can take fights as unfairly as possible. And Burrow Banelings are something. Remember when Scarlet used Burrow Banelings against Bomber over half of Reynor's life ago? Yeah. 12 years for 2014. How's the back pain? Like and subscribe for existential dread. And Clem moves a little far forward. We'll get a few of the Marines bitten off. A 3 upgrade advantage for those Marines. But the Banelings are still rolling forward. The Muta's trying to fight, but here comes Clem. And the Marines will outflank the Zerg army. 10 more Mutas in production, but a Thor and a couple little... Burrowed Banes. Roll it back. He burrowed. Wait, I can't even see him. Oh, he burrowed him like underneath. There's no way. So this worked perfectly. Oh my. Whoa, gets the hit. And that was exactly what he needed. There's no way he beats that army on the open field. But underneath the field, that was exactly what Reynor needed to keep the momentum. Because if Clem ever regains it, disaster. His units are just better. But Reynor? Oh, is he going to fall for it? Yet again, he tries to get it. The problem is, he kind of telegraphed it. And now the Widow Mines have a little more range. We'll knock out a whole bunch of the Zerglings, a couple Marines. The Muta's flapping back. And just like that, the supply lead flipped on its head. And Thor is here. So he might be able to magic box it. Stop it. Oh, he goes for the medevac to stop it from extracting. And just hold position over the top. Mitigates the splash damage. A few more Widow Mines. Flaps through. Knocks out a couple more SCVs. And the Mutas are dragging the army back. And nice little split at the end. But that Muta split into a couple pieces as well. Clem scans the main. Why? Is there a hive? Yes, no. Am I winning? Yes, no. Same question. If there is a hive, then Reynor is in a really good spot, actually, against the Marines, Marauders, and Mines. If not, Clem is going to have a continually more cost-effective army. And in fact, well, Clem is up 40 supply. That speaks for itself. The Mutas! Oh, no, 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 no. Hide your lings, hide your banes. They're killing all the Zergs up in here. That goes for another missile turret. Will actually kill the Marines, and he's at great cost. But great reward. Reynor takes a whole bunch of Widow Mines on the chin, but he actually manages to clear out 33 SCVs. Which gives him a massive worker lead. But the army is still on the field. The Widow Mines, Banelings rolling through. The Thor kind of absorbing some of it. Splits back past. Oh no. I'm not biased. Okay, a little biased. Zerglings struggling to close the distance, but Reynor survives a little bit longer. He takes the supply lead yet again. The Mutas making miracles happen. But he's gonna need even more. He Widow Mines are still scattered throughout the field. He hasn't been able to remove them. Drilling Claws means they remain cloaked. The Thor chases it down. The mobile tower defense Thor, all tucked in there. Always hilarious that it doesn't fit in the medevac. Actually modeled that animation after your mother. As the Thor... Now... On its own, the Mutas could actually beat the Thor, but the medevac makes things more complicated. And he splits the splash damage, and with the Marines coming up to reinforce, Clem's coming up the right side, as well as Reynor with a counterattack on the left. Mutas and Banelings back at home for Reynor, trying his best to pull everything together, even as Clem is tearing them apart. Drags the Widow Mines forward, knocks out another set. Meanwhile, counterattack in the main. In the natural, there's no wall to the main base itself. The Banelings finding a lot of success. And in fact, much of Clem's supply is in medevacs. How many medevacs? A dozen. 24 of his army supply. Which is good if he's able to use them. But right now, he's not finding a lot of success. The Zerglings are ripping through the natural. The Zerglings still gutting the main. Taking out the reinforcements as they pop out of the barracks. Another Thor is torn down. And again, Clem's... Reynor still finding successes as Clem can't seem to find his footing on the open field. The medevacs in autumn colors and not too many Marines underneath. There's still Zerglings in the natural. He hasn't been mining from his main base for like 5 minutes now. Unfortunately for Reynor, the northern base is taken out by a singular drop. There's still a Widow Mine down the center threatening random Zerglings as they come by. The Mutas have done so much, but have they done enough? Clem is at 3-2 upgrades, up against +1 melee attack and +2 carapace, alongside +1 flyer. A few Zerglings burrowed, but right now Reynor is making a mountain out of this Muta hill. And He needs one more fight like that. Clem's economy. He's on a shoestring budget right now, and he's got some big shoes to fill with the Thors. Overlord's speed is on the way. The creep spread is lacking in all luster. He doesn't even really have enough bases to efficiently mine with the 67 drones, which is a relatively low number in a more normal sort of game. But the Mutilating Bane against the Marines, the Marauders, the Mines, the Medevacs, and the Thors. The Give me edit in something covered. But here's the split. The Mutas knock out the missile turret. Knock out the Marines. Get the Widow Mine. Clem pulling back. But he's decided to go forward. The heart of the swarm. Are there enough Marines to base trade? Here we go. How many Banelings? 19 Banelings with this. A few Widow Mines trying to cover any sort of flank. And right now, Clem driving straight through. Planetary Fortress. Reynor. The Mutas are still on the other side of the map. Reynor is losing all of his drones. If he can crush this army one time, but he's running out of real estate, and even as he takes down a planetary fortress, it's becoming more and more unrealistic to defend his home. But can he actually take out Clem's? The lair is taken down, the spawning pool, the Baneling nest, the tech tree has been cut down. The Marines are rebuilt. The Widow Mines knock out some of the Zerglings. And I think it ends not with a bang. With a couple more G's. Clem finally able to capitalize on his upgrade advantage, on his unit composition, and Reynor, well, never ended up picking a fight. So he couldn't win the war. Another intense, hectic game, but honestly, from almost the very beginning, with the Reaper build, Clem, he was a freight train, all right? And Reynor was doing whatever he could to derail him. But eventually, he built up too much momentum. 3-3 upgrades, that's usually, that. If you go back to the days of Mutilating Bane on a more regular basis, it's the upgrade timer. Because in order to get those 3-3 upgrades and more tech as Zerg, you have to get an infestation, you gotta go to Hive. Whereas 3-3 upgrades are unlocked for Terran by just having an armory. Technically, you got a fusion core for the more advanced ones, or Ghost Academy. But since they're lower tech units, they get their upgrades a little cheaper. And that's what Clem was angling towards. And now, well, a little bit of winter madness. Something I prefer. And full disclosure, some of you may, before I get called out, this match, I believe, though I don't remember too closely since all these matches are intense, but kind of similar. I cast this as an anti-spoiler game some days or weeks ago. So, if you are so inclined to skip one of the most intense games of Terran versus Zerg that I've ever seen, okay, and spoil yourself a little further. But I just remember this being an incredible game. I'm pretty sure I know who wins. But so, in case you're getting some deja vu, this time, it's not just similar, it is the same, but I think we can focus on some different details. Or maybe the same ones, honestly. Be interesting to compare. Try to focus a little more on the builds. I feel like I know there's some people out there trying to actually learn. Okay, let's be fair. There's some people trying to actually learn, not like have a good idea of what's going on. And theoretically, if I ever loaded up StarCraft 2 and didn't have a panic attack trying to hit the rank button before my kids bothered me, and I got cannon rushed, maybe in that order, maybe not. I don't focus as much. I think there are other commentators out there and the players themselves who sometimes break down their decision making. But I mean, I've been pretty good at the game in the past. Random Grandmaster, all 3 races. Well, telling my race because otherwise people play super cheesy. But I miss some of the nuance. I used to do some more of the first-person casting where you follow one player's perspective, which can be a lot of fun. But like, either of these 2 players is fun, but also in the way of like going on a carnival ride. Like, fun for 3 minutes. And then after that, I'm a little nauseous. I think it's a little easier when they're streaming because you can see the mouse cursor and stuff moving around. But when the camera's just jumping around like a ADHD squirrel, then it gets a little more difficult. Though, all the details are so important. Like the little exchanges between the Reaper and the Queen. The timing exactly of getting the third command center, sometimes the placement, is not just the order, but the placement and what each player has shown one another. Like Reynor with his Overlord placements. That's another thing. Like, if you're looking to copy Zergs, get off my... Get. Churlish, insubordinate. Yeah. Good job, Brenda. Shut up, Susan. Sorry. But you start with the same amount of drones as Cyril and Reynor. Your overlords move just as fast / slow. Those are things you can pretty much directly copy because it doesn't take much to send the overlords to the right spot. And this is a very common strategy, is the overlord gliding in at usually around 4 to 5 minutes, which is when the Terran is actually committing to their tech. If you scout earlier, you don't really get a breakdown on what they're doing. If you scout later, you've already figured it out because they're hitting you with it. We got the Cloak Banshee on the way. Does he send the OV in, or is he just going to chill and wait for another opportunity? This map does not have a pervert pillar nearby. The closest, actually, I don't even think there is one within the first kind of base quadrant. I keep wanting that Overlord to prove my point, but you know, it's a bit stubborn. It's been hanging out all game. It can outlate me. Lair has begun. I'm back at home. We got Cloaked Banshees, the Hellions jousting with the Queens on the field, trying to delay that creep spread. Something that Reynor simply wasn't able to get going last game. Limited Queens, limited energy, limited attention. Even more than APM between these two, the fastest attention per minute players in the game. Able to focus on so many different things. Now, some might argue that certain things are working smarter and not harder. Like how Reynor has usually, on average, not yet in the game, but on average between 550 and like 700 APM. Cyril rarely breaks 500. Now, most might argue that Cyril is a better player in many matches. But the style Cyril plays is so much it is counterattacks and constant aggression, but it kind of tempered by things like Infestors and Vipers, which only take a few actions to be super effective instead of Massling Bane. But sometimes the Swarm. Unfortunately, a couple Queens taken down by the quick Cloak Banshees, even though Reynor went for Frenchman just continually assassinating the Queens. Revolutionary tactic as he starts things off. And the base itself, Banshees will target it, gets canceled, but he's jammed into a corner. This is restricted lair space. I warned you. Are you getting joint pain right now? And a headache, really. I'm talking to you. A couple Queens will survive the ordeal. Aspire is nearly completed. Muta's the choice yet again. And double evolution chamber, but deja vu. We've just been in this place before. Not nearly as difficult a position for Reynor. Make no mistake. The last game was Reynor continually trying to knock Clem off balance so he could maybe get a technical knockout. Quite literally with his tech. But this time, he's going to be medium on a much more even basis. The upgrades will be quicker for Terran, but the economy and production will be better for Zerg. And the mobility with the Mutalisk, and does he have a Bane Nest? Yes. And Baneling speed thank you, will be more important. Here we go. The duel. The classic Mutaling versus Marine Tank is a tale older than both of these players, dating back to the Brood War, the 90s, which just a few years ago. 28. And we'll see yet again the give and take. The Mutas flap right by, and Clem completely unsuspecting. Though the Marines will be engaging heads up, and the Mutas will be heading down into the unit's loss. Comes around the corner with the siege tanks, and oh no. A disastrous start for Reynor. He will lose 43 Zerglings, 5 Mutalisks, a hatchery. And he got, what, a few SCVs, a handful of Marines. You can fit 5 Marines in your hands. Those are huge hands, but and a medevac. Clem killed 1/5 the amount of Marines. That was barely a trade. That was just bullying. The Mutas will intercept the Banshees. The Banshees will realize it first, but still. Sieges up the Overseer to get that little bit of extra vision for a moment. But Clem again takes the supply lead against the Mutaling Bane. And that's the struggle is, if you go Mutas too quick, and you don't have a ground army to deal with the Marines. If you go too late, the Mutas don't do anything. And if you go just right, well, let me know what that is. So Clem definitely has the initiative. 2-2 is lined up. The Marines stimming. It's just Marines. Okay, a couple mines right behind it, but Marines and medevacs. He's willing to brawl on the open field, which is risky, even for Clem. One mistake, or even not mistake, just not perfect micro, and Clem can lose a huge chunk of his army. He rarely makes that sort of mistake, though. Burrow is on the way. I feel like these scans are kind of conservative, not just for creep, but also just in case their burrowed Bane snuck in. The Lings and Banes. Muta's on the complete other side of the map, trying to close the distance. Takes out some of the Widow Mines. Drilling Claw's already done, but there is an Overseer on the other side. Thor. Gonna chase the Mutas down in the main. Splash all over them. Oh, no. Oh, the Marines are gonna corner them. Clem puts the Mutas in the corner. There's no easy way out. And he's maxed out at 10 minutes while doing all this. He's got 4 bases. He's got 2-2 upgrades. He's got 69 SCVs. Full production, 8 racks, and maxed out at 10 minutes. Just a macro fiend. And Reynor struggling to equal him. Thor takes a pot shot at the Mutalisks. Again, Reynor's going to be found in that awkward situation where essentially stalled out on Lair Tech against a Terran who's headed toward 3-3. The Mutas will flap back into the main, take out, uninstall some of the add-ons. Widowmine, small bite out of the Zerglings, gets into the third. Clem still fighting on the open field.
Base is under attack.
Going deep onto the creep while dealing with the counterattack. And Clem sees all the Banes. Though if there's not enough, that just becomes target practice. Dealing with the main base. Here we are. Well, and there you go. Reynor forces the issue. Might be able to take out one of the Thors as Clem scrambling on either side. Another set of Baneling mines. And Clem, well, Reynor followed him all the way across the map. He didn't clear out the mines back at home. Which will be a continuing issue as 2 more Mutas get knocked out of the sky. A painful toll. But overall, Reynor able to regain some map control. No infestation pit. 2-2 upgrades are about to complete, which means for a minute or two, he'll be on relatively even footing for his plentiful Zerg feet. Make sure to check out my Dronely fans for more. Zergling sneaking in, but eventually we'll get cleaned up. And now begins the most important minute of the game for Reynor. Clem scans the main. That's how you know. He's scanning the main because Reynor having a high... when he's using his relatively limited scans to scout for bases or upgraded bases, that's when very clearly he knows his advantage. He only has 3 orbital commands. Multiple scans to scout for infrastructure is really trying to nail down his position in the game. Meanwhile, Reynor has managed to scrape together 200 supply. And he's got a hive on the way. So he's holding it together. The counterattacks are absolutely incessant. The banelings rolling through. Pulls back a little further. Burrows the Zerglings. Gets on top of the medevacs. Chases them down, and there's Zerglings burrowed pretty much everywhere like a campaign mission right now. And Clem, not cleaning him up too quickly. The mutas are able to knock down a couple drops to the bottom left side. Zerglings chewing through the right side, the third base. A few Widow Mines will pass by the burrowed Banes. 3-3 is now done for Clem. Which means on the open field, these Marines, Marauders, and Mines are a very difficult proposition to contend with. But on the creep, and maybe backed into a corner, that's when Reynor can potentially get something done. He gets on top of the Thor. Banelings rolling through, trying to drop the mine hits. Oh no, the Banelings A-moved into the Marauders! And he loses pretty much all of them to it. Loses, I mean, I guess they killed some Marauders, but that's clearly not the priority target. Another wave is built. The Thor, yeeted back. No, that's not the right term. I don't know why I said it like that. I'm embarrassed. Jimmy, edit that out. More Widow Mines will slam across the board, but the mutas are mostly intact. 33 mutas dead, 400 Zerglings in just 15 minutes. Wow. 40,000, over 40,000 resources lost in that amount of time. The Banelings target. He got every single bit. Disgusting. Another Widow Mine. Caught between a rock and a hard place. Those Zerglings, 10 of them down in a shot. Adrenal glands on the way, but look at the supply. Again, Reynor clawing back. But the creep spread, he's getting adrenal glands. Probably the most cost-effective upgrade. 40% attack speed for your Zerglings is kind of a big deal. And against this sort of unit composition, especially with all these counterattacks, can be very useful. He's quadrupling down on the mutas. He's all in. He needs them to work. Clem retargets the mine. Maximizes the damage. Actually very hard to do on the midfield. And deletes the banelings. Cleans him up. The mutas have to flap back to defend, as Clem just invalidates banelings as an entire species. The Marines and Marauders, well, either they're going to rehab or the unit's lost tab, and rehab ain't gonna happen. Clem continues pouring on the pressure, and Reynor is drowning. The tide of Terran continues to roll through, and only occasionally stemmed by the mutas, the lings, the banes. But the inevitable momentum continues towards the Frenchman. He's still got 57 SCVs. He's going on something like 6 bases, turrets dotting the field. Reynor, we're still with a lot of banelings and a decent amount of money. Banelings roll through. Huge Widowmine hit. Slams another muta. Reynor chased him down on the field. Will knock out most of this attack, but the medevacs will be able to boost away. They'll expect some of us in the wreckage, brothers. Abandons a few of the units. The mutas find some, a tiny amount, but a meaningful amount of open space. A few more Marines. Oh no, who's flanking whom? Somehow, all of the mutas survive, and another planetary fortress will be assailed. The banelings, not gonna be wasted. Actually manages to keep them together. Getting caught out. Widowmine, I think he just scampered up here. He didn't even bother dropping them. The Mutaflock is at 27. With this hatchery under heavy fire. This, Widowmine left behind and a dozen drones will be slammed as they converge on the mineral line. Knocking out the missile turrets, but this takes precious, precious time. And a few SCVs here and there, a few missile turrets. It's getting harder and harder to see the light at the end of the tunnel. As Reynor needs to kill the army somehow. He needs to take out a critical mass and keep Clem off his side of the map. But Reynor was running out of sides to work with. And Clem, well, the Clempire strikes back. 2-1 Clem. Mutas twice, put down twice. Similar fashion. Took a little more effort this time around, but... And this was unprovoked. This was Reynor going mutas from the start as opposed to a sort of reaction. And it was definitely better. But I'd argue it wasn't nearly good enough. Mutas mostly relegated. Well, there's almost everyone else. And then there's Clem. And the disparity between those two categories is uncomfortably large. Like, Maru is right behind Clem, except when he's in front of him because Clem's playing Protoss, or vice versa. But Maru kind of has graduated, for better or worse, I would say better most of the time, to a more late-game turtle style. Whereas Clem would much rather be throwing punches left, right, and center, just like Reynor. And unfortunately for Reynor, just not able to get the momentum going. And he won battles. He knocked out drops. He whittled down Marines. But it was hard to see him winning the war. By the time, like, usually, and historically, even in Brood War, I believe, if the Terran is able to get past 3 bases and you're still on Muta-Ling, drastic things have to happen for you to turn it around. Like, assuming the Zerg doesn't have the entire rest of the map, like they have 4 or 5 bases. Like, you really need either more tech or, honestly, get a little lucky. And the way Reynor plays creates a lot of his own luck. With the 4-digit APM sometimes, the pinpoint micro. It's just when he's facing against Clem, well, a bit of an unfair comparison. The amount of, like, I would challenge with no pressure, no time limit, nothing. Give you $100. You know what? I'll put that challenge out there. Am I? I'm gonna lower it a bit because 100 is a lot. $50 for someone to go into the unit tester, have the banelings. I'm trying to think how you would execute this. There's the Marine split challenge. But what was Clem facing? Like 10, it's important to have the Zerglings, because if it's just banelings, the Marines will attack. But have like 15 speedlings and 10 banelings on creep against, what was it, 12 Marines stimmed with medevacs? And somehow target every single baneling as it comes down a ramp, on creep, shift queued, with time to spare. That's not an important part. But not a single one of those banelings getting close to even damage the Marines. Just unseemly efficient. Now, it kind of reminds me of those StarCraft 2 bots. I gotta be hesitant to say AI because it doesn't mean what most people would use it for nowadays in our beautiful bubble. But the like 20,000 APM pro bots and such that are individually microing every unit, individually microing every worker for max efficiency. And when you can split and stutter step your Marines individually at 25,000 APM, well, guess what? It's almost impossible to deal with. And like, what about Alpha Star? It's been a while since I thought about that. Google's taken a turn, but Alpha Star was limited to acting like a human. That was the challenge, was to have it control like a virtual mouse and keyboard at a limited amount, like 200-something APM. Because for a while, we've been able to have the technology to watch Marines stutter step perfectly in 17 different directions. Still impressive, clearly inhuman. But watching them make the decision to drop and maybe sacrifice some Marines so they can prioritize defending back at home while microing, that is, you know, that's the crux of it, eh? That's the real time slapped in front of the strategy. And that's what makes the game so entertaining, still, in this day, in this age. So difficult, so stressful, so beautiful, and so frustrating. So many adjectives. And plenty of time, because we start out with 3 CC, Cloak Banshee on the way, 3 Rex behind. So far, a grand total of none units have died. But there's been a lot of heated exchanges, mostly because of the Hellions. I will say, even though I had already seen that previous game before, I didn't remember most of it besides that one Baneling moment. Which, what does that say about me? No, well, the vibes, but I'm very glad that we're able to see how this series went from the start. And right now, Reynor, his lair is significantly later, which, well, Spore Crawlers are on the way. 53 drones and counting. Hellions darting in. Just deciding to deal. This is awkward. The Zerglings trying to physically box out the Hellions. And so far doing a pretty great job without suffering too heavy losses. A few more getting charbroiled. This is restricted. Hello? Oh, they're right there. Can't we just shoot in that area? Shut up, Brenda. Stop. That's a stupid idea. Hey. The Hellions run right by. A couple of them a half step from breaking down, but instead, it's the drone count that'll be broken down in turn. 6 drones, 7. The Zerglings will eventually nibble on another, but Reynor went for a lower tech but greedier start. He's gonna rush straight up to Hive. Unless this is a Swarm Host build, which it's not. But it could be. No, it's not. Unfortunately, when you cut too many corners, you end up losing your edge. And right now, Reynor at dead even workers. Despite focusing entirely on economy, he does have those 4 hatcheries. He does have double evo, and his upgrades are going to be kind of similarly timed to the Frenchman. But it's 10 queens and 12 lynx against the first set of Marines, though only stim is done. 1-1's still a little ways off. Combat shield further. The queens themselves try to hold the line. And for now, he's not trying to target the medevacs because he needs to kill the Marines as well. He doesn't have enough Zerglings quite yet. Hive has begun. Reynor actually a little supply blocked, which is unfortunate at a key time like this. Clem adding on the armory. Infestation, or Infestor on the way. Infestation been obviously completed. The Banshees will recloak. And Reynor never built an Overseer. But the Banshees combined with the main push will give it a little more strength. Doesn't want to split off too many queens because then obviously he's vulnerable to the medevacs to the north. Spore Crawler will... Marines stimming forward. Huge counterattack from Reynor. But did he leave enough at home to defend? He has a single infester. Throws out the fungal. It's good, not great. Another one. Queen still holding the line. The Zergling clearing out the third, but Clem trying to do the same. Spore Crawler knocks out a medevac from the side. Queen's getting gunned down one by one. And that number is dwindling rapidly. More Zerglings. Medevac's nearly out of energy. The Survivor's trying to drag in the Widowmine hit. Actually slams into the Marines. The only real saving grace here. But, it's not amazing enough. The hatchery is taken down. The counterattack Zerglings are eventually brought back around. And Reynor down 30 supply. Ultraless Cavern is on the way, but I fear it's, ambitious, potentially futile. Spore Crawler trying to help with the Banshees. Doesn't quite get even one of them. Clem has just made way too much progress. Reynor tried to skip to Hive, but he got caught mid-stride. And while he's trying to do the same with the Zerglings, the Drilling Claws making life difficult. Takes out a chunk of the Lings. Micro's back. But wait, there's more. Another chunk. Can't even get the sensor tower. You can feel the frustration on those Zerglings. Just desperate to get anything done. But every time. The Marines in position. Clem has enough army supply to leave 30 at home and still have more on the field than Reynor can field entirely. This time he's reaching for the Ultras. And, well... they're hard to grasp in the best of times. Fungal catches some of the Marines. There's a few more behind it just as 2-2 finishes. Widowmines, Liberators, Marauders, everything being added in. Did he see the Ultraless Cavern or just suspect it? The Queen's trying to intercept the medevacs. Gets one. It was empty, though, unfortunately. Venn diagram of freedom, and the drone's on the run. Clem is maxed out. Here come the Infestors, the Ultra, but there goes the hatchery. And to the north. GG! Says Reynor. As Clem just tearing through him. Reynor off to a strong start. And feels like it kind of lost momentum from there. Clem realized he can't let Reynor get to that late game. He put on so much more aggression, kept so much more pressure in games 2 through 4, and clearly held his feet to the fire and made sure Reynor got burned. An intense series, but Clem, clearly the decisive victor this time around, and I certainly hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. I hope I made your day a little bit better, and if you got the means of motivation, be awesome to check out Patreon, YouTube membership, but I hear liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. Make sure to check out this video Jimmy picked out just for you. Thank you to our Mule tier patrons, Big Jiggy, Devin Dorkate, Mario Soup for bringing us those extra minerals. I'll see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Thank you for watching. Stay chill.